Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator. Here on America's Next, I have Desiree Moore with me here today. How you doing, Desiree?
I'm doing good, and yourself?
I'm doing quite well, quite well. Hey, listen, everybody. As I'm sure you can relate to, I've had a long day. I don't know about you, Desiree, but between this warm weather and this energy that's going around, I have been busy. How about you?
I agree. Same here.
Yeah. It's like every day needs to have 25 hours now.
Yes, it does. It does.
Where are you from?
I am from New York. I was born in Brooklyn, raised in Long Island.
Wow, born in Brooklyn. When I was growing up and I would meet people from New York, they say when you go to New York and you ask around, all people want to know is, or when you go to a party, all they want to know is, number one, where's Brooklyn at? And number two, where's Brooklyn at? What was it like growing up in Brooklyn for you?
Well, I had a very short time in Brooklyn. I literally was born there, and then I was adopted and I moved to Long Island. So I don't really have a Brooklyn background. So I just represent because I was born there. So
got it. You're repping Brooklyn at all costs.
Yes.
So you got adopted when you were young?
I did, actually.
Okay. And what was the reason for that, if I can ask?
Oh, definitely. I was adopted because my mom struggled with like mental health, and she also wasn't able to read or write. She had a few disabilities that they kind of said that she wouldn't be fit to take care of my siblings and I. So we were adopted by my aunt and uncle for about, I was about adopted with them for about 17 years, and then at 17, I entered the foster care system.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, the first thing is that your aunt and uncle took you all in, and you said that you have siblings too?
I do. I have two siblings.
Okay. Are you the youngest, oldest in between?
I'm the youngest.
Wow, the baby.
Yeah.
Wow. So when you got adopted by your aunt and uncle, did you know what was going on around you at the time?
Not at all. I actually didn't know I was adopted until I overheard it in a conversation, but I always felt different from them. Like, I can't explain it, but I just felt like, for lack of better words, I felt like as a kid, I was just super friendly and I wanted to know everybody. And I felt like my aunt and uncle, they were not that way. So I was like, I must be adopted because we just see the world so differently. And then I ended up finding out one day, walking up the steps, my aunt was telling my sisters, oh, don't tell your sister she's adopted. But in reality, we were all adopted. But it was just that I was the youngest and my adoption was still in the process of like closing. So that's how my mom had an opportunity to visit me one more time before I was adopted.
Did that pique your interest into a conversation? When you overheard that, did you guys have a conversation after that?
Absolutely not, because I just felt like the household I was in at the time, like you didn't ask questions, and everything was so secretive. So when I found that out, I didn't even let them know I know. I kind of just went back down the stairs as if I never was going to greet them. So I kind of held the secret for a while, knowing that I was adopted. And then eventually they came out and they told me, but I had already heard it.
And you're very, very perceptive as a young child to think, hey, I wonder if I'm adopted, because we seem to be not connecting when we communicate. I think that's interesting right out the gate. Yeah, but how long did you go on knowing that you had heard that in the hallway and not said anything?
Probably for a few months until they were forced to tell me, because my mom had an opportunity to meet me one last time before I was adopted. But those few months, well, first when I heard I was adopted, I was kind of like, thank God, because I knew something was a little bit off. But then it brought up this curiosity of like who my mom is or who my dad is, what they're like. Like I would just dream about like I had this whole idea of who my mom was, who my parents were in my head.
Wow.
So it just made me more curious.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I think a lot of us, when we don't have our parents, and if you don't know, and for those of you out there who might not know, I also spent years of my life in foster care. So I was separated from my mom too. And I hear you when you say you kind of like wondered about your mom and wondered about your father. Can you give us that imagery? What did you imagine your mother and father being?
Um, I definitely dreamed of them being like successful people, like just well known. And I don't know why that was such a big deal when I was younger, but I just dreamed of them like being fun, outgoing parents, parents that would be like PTA moms and dads, just like really involved and loving. Um, and then I always just wondered like what they looked like because for me growing up, I never looked like my aunt and uncle. And when I went to school and I watched other kids pick up their when I watched kids get picked up by their parents, I could always see that resemblance. You know, so for me, I was always looking for like someday I will be able to see that resemblance.
Right. Wow, that's very important to see a resemblance between a child and parent. And so eventually there must have been some conversations about what had transpired.
Yes, there was conversations, but they weren't positive. Like they ended up just making the conversation more of how horrible my mother was. It wasn't necessarily my father because I don't think he was in the picture at all. But my mom was pursuing like trying to get to know us, figure out where we were. So they just painted her out to be a really bad person. Like she didn't want you, she didn't care about you guys. So it was really hard to process like, here I am dreaming about this person, and then my aunt and uncle are telling me, you know, basically we are the heroes, and she is just, you know, someone that didn't care about you and threw you away.
Right. And that kind of speaks toward, something that needs to be fixed in our families in general. I think that we need to change the culture of this person can't do for you and I'm doing for you, and so I'm a hero.
Yes.
And with the children really benefit when the adults reach out and heal one another.
Yeah.
Um, if you have a brother or sister out there who's struggling or they're having challenges in life, to what extent, Desiree, do you think that we need to change the culture of pushing them to the side and becoming the hero and becoming healers?
Oh, I like that. Like, if I could go back in time and kind of play my aunt and uncle, I definitely would not. Um, I wouldn't condemn my mother. Like, I would say that she just wasn't able to take care of you guys, and we had to step up. You know, I wouldn't. I would allow the person to get to know if it's an opportunity, because you don't always get to meet your parents, but for them to make those decisions by themselves, you know, because for a very long time, and I'm so grateful and blessed that I had the opportunity to meet my mom and then make my own decision. But she's really a loving person who just wasn't able to mentally care for her children, you know, but that didn't mean that she didn't love her children. And they definitely made that seem like she didn't like you, she was over you, and that wasn't the case. But
Right.
I think there was a part of, I think there was some insecurities around if you find out about your mom, then maybe you don't care about us anymore. So it was more of kind of like highlighting themselves versus just being a bit more strength based.
Mhm. Do you think that your mother was negatively impacted by you all not being with her?
Can you say that question one more time?
Do you think that your mother was negatively impacted by you all not being with her?
Oh my gosh, was she? I feel like it altered her entire life.
Wow.
And I think that, like, right now, she struggles with mental health. And I feel like, yes, she had challenges before she had us, but the trauma of your children being taken away, I think that also played a really big factor on her mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's something still to this day that she carries.
Yeah, I don't know if a parent ever gets over their children being taken away.
No, I don't think so either.
Right. And so, given all these dynamics, Desiree, what was elementary school like for you?
That's an interesting question. I don't think anyone ever asked me about elementary. I feel like I feel like school was always hard for me because um, I was always holding family secrets,
Wow.
so I was never able to be a kid or to be able to focus in school. Like literally school to me as a 5-year-old in kindergarten, it was just like a safe place. Like I get to stay here for a few hours and I don't have to be disturbed, So for me, I never really got the experience of school. But I'm really thankful to God that um, I was able to learn some things, which I don't really understand to this day because my mind I was never fully present in school. So,
Wow. And do you think that your desire to have like your actual mom and father at home was the thing that kept you from being mentally present at school?
no, not so much. I was in a very abusive household. So my parents were just like physically abusive, sexual abuse, like molestation. So that was like, yeah, I just wasn't able to focus because the environment was so toxic.
I'm sorry that happened to you, Desiree. That should never be the story of a child sitting in the back of the classroom or even in the front of the classroom for that matter, who's not mentally present. Usually it's because you took too long to get ready, so you didn't get to get breakfast and you're upset about that, or the TV got turned off last night. But for you, it was a totally different set of dynamics. And you obviously were able to get through that. Did you have any counselors or teachers that helped you along the way at that time?
Elementary?
Yeah.
No, actually. I got into a lot of trouble like in elementary. Like I was definitely very sassy, had a bad attitude, was always like yelling at people, getting into arguments like with classmates and stuff like that. So I don't know, I think the teachers kind of like wrote me off as just a kid that was ADHD and just defiant. And I feel like for me during that time, I was really just crying out and hoping that someone would be like, you are misbehaving. Like, what's going on at home? Like, I was never asked that question. It was more just like, what's wrong with you? Why are you acting like that? Why can't you just be like the regular classmates? So I feel like in elementary, I didn't really have that much support, but I did have, I was placed in like a self-esteem class, but
Okay.
that would have been nice, but it's hard to work on self-esteem when you have so many issues that are happening at home that are bigger than self-esteem. Or if you're working on self-esteem and then when you get home, it's being teared down, the class just wasn't helpful.
Right. Right. And it sounds like at a young age you were slipping through the cracks. And
Definitely.
that really hurts me to hear because I'm like, why do we have children slipping through the cracks these days in America? You can clearly see what's going on. And if you can't clearly see what's going on, if you don't know what happened in your student's life yesterday, if you don't know the ins and outs of the mentality of the students that you're dealing with, then are we really able to educate our children?
No, I think the things that happen at home play a really huge factor in school. And that's why I think that teachers have to be educated and asking the right questions, not just coming to teach, but you spend so many hours. Like, honestly, if I would have had a teacher that I really felt like I could connect with to be open, I probably would have got out of the situation that I was in a long time ago. But I never felt safe. I just felt like I was always judged because I was always getting in trouble.
And it seems like you were already in survival mode at that time in your life because you saw school as a safe place.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Wow, wow. Did you do any journaling or writing about the things that you were going through?
Um, when I got a little bit older, I did I wrote about it a lot actually. I love writing, and I feel like writing was definitely an outlet because the things that I was going through, I couldn't share with my sisters, because I was always told like, oh well, um, like I was always told that if we didn't behave or if I didn't behave, then we would be separated. And I always wanted to stay connected with my sisters. So I never shared what was happening. Like they were both being physically abused too, but not sexually. So that was kind of like a secret that I just had to keep. So that was something that I would just like write about because I felt like I couldn't talk to my sisters or actually anyone.
And this abuse that you're talking about, this was happening by your aunt and uncle?
This was happening by my uncle.
Okay.
And my aunt was more of kind of a bystander who didn't really take the initiative to like stand up for us.
Wow. You know, these are the sorts of things when we look at people, there's a saying you can see the surface, but you can't see the inside. You can't see the actual journey of somebody.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've really been through a lot, and you acted out. You got into some fights, and people just wrote you off as having an attention disorder, and oh, she likes to fight, as opposed to what's really at the base level of this behavior.
Yeah.
I think we really have to do better, and I think that your willingness to come forward and explain your story is going to help people to understand why being a teacher is more than just being a teacher. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah. So then tell me then how did you get to middle school then? What was that like?
Um, Middle school was the same.
Yeah.
Like I was still getting in trouble. Um, oh, middle school is so hard to remember.
And middle school is, I mean, Long Island is kind of like a nicer area than Brooklyn. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay.
Um, but I feel like, and I feel like that's another factor. Like sometimes people think because my uncle and aunt, they were like normal people, like, like they gave us everything, material. Like we had toys, we had new clothes, like we were always kept really good. And I feel like a lot of times when people think a child is being abused, they automatically think like they're poor or they look a certain way. And I felt like we always had to look a certain way. Um, and I feel like that also could have been a factor that kind of I was overlooked because maybe because I had the things physically that I needed.
Were there any signs that you gave that would have let somebody know that everything was not right at home?
I definitely think behavior. Um, uh, yeah, I think more behavior, and I think like when I got into middle school, um, I felt like I was like begin to get like very boy crazy, and I feel like that sometimes can also be a sign of like people trying to say like, hey, help me, or why does this person know about all of these different things and they're a certain age. So I don't know, I just feel like it's important for everybody in the school to always keep their eye out on a certain, like maybe if each teacher had a certain group of people that they could get connected with so that they can feel comfortable enough to share.
And what was preventing your mother from seeing you at this time? Now you've been adopted for years now, and you mentioned the last time you saw your mother. Why wasn't your mother able to see you at none of these instances?
That I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was because I was adopted now, um, and maybe she lost her access, if it was a closed adoption. Like I really still don't know to this day why she couldn't be connected. But I know by the time that I met my mom around 6 or 7, they had already basically they had already like brainwashed me enough to make me realize like I don't want to have anything to do with her. Like because they were just saying such harsh things. So even the day that I met her that one time, I never got to connect with her because there were so many people in the room. And my aunt and uncle made it seem like if I talked to her more, then I would be betraying them. And then I would have to go live with her.
Right.
And they basically told me it wasn't a good environment to live in. So I was kind of always thinking about myself and my sisters.
Right. And pretty much not really having a childhood.
Yeah.
You really didn't have a childhood. You're thinking about the best interest of your sisters all the time. You're thinking about, school being a safe space. So when would you say that you really began to have the growth spurt into adulthood?
I would probably say like in my late 20s. Like now I'm 31 and I feel like I'm still discovering a lot of things that I never really discovered in my younger years because I was in survival mode.
What were some of the experiences that helped you to kind of open your mind up to, the bigger picture?
I definitely would say friends because growing up I was not allowed to have friends at all. Like that was just a no-go. And I think the no having friends was fear of me exposing what was happening at home because the rule was always like what happens at home stays at home. Don't like share anything. So I don't think I was able to have friends for that reason. So when I began to get older, I began to connect with people and just have different experiences. Try going out to eat places, connecting with friends at church, like just different people along the way. I got to experience different things.
Absolutely. And then, as you got to experience new people and new things, did you slowly start to realize that you had been brainwashed, so to speak, for a long time? Keeping family secrets because you being mistreated is the secret. And, all these different experiences kind of molded you into somebody that wanted to see different. You want to see more things out there. Did you start realizing that you've been kind of like brainwashed?
Definitely. I feel like I'm always like a firm believer that you just don't heal like overnight. Like each day, each week, I'm learning something new. And I feel like during that time, living under their household, I feel like slowly but surely they changed my identity, my personality, my perspective. So it's just now that I'm beginning to like learn what I like, what I don't like, and how I want to be as a person. So it's still something that I'm like going through each day.
Right. And how do you undo some of the things that you were taught that you know is not right?
Oh, that's a tough one. I wish it was like a 1, 2, 3 thing, but honestly, sometimes it's just people around me saying like, yo, like that's not okay. Like, why do you think like that? Or why do you think we're all gonna like leave you? Or why do you think we're thinking harsh about you and we're thinking kind of you? So it's sometimes really just having people around me to be able to um having people around me to just inform me of things that I may not know. Um, Yeah, and definitely I'm always praying because I want to be a better person and I want to be able to see things from a healthy perspective.
Absolutely. Do you ever get somewhere and think, wow, this is just too good for me?
Oh my God, all the time, sadly to say.
Wow.
I feel like I experience a lot of times self-sabotage. Like I will try to like I'll have a dream and then I'm close to it and then I'm like, no, I don't deserve this. And I don't physically say that, but subconsciously the things that I do says that because like I end up going backwards or just not fulfilling um the goal. So yeah, it's real. I
Yeah,
think for me more it's about realizing when I do it so that I could be better.
absolutely. I realized that when you have abuse and neglect growing up, then you end up abusing and neglecting yourself to an extent.
Definitely.
And if you don't pay attention to what happened in your past and get out in front of it and deal with it, then you'll end up abusing yourself.
Yes.
Would you
And
say
then
that?
sadly, you will end up abusing others, and maybe not necessarily the way you've been abused, but just emotionally, you can end up doing that. So for me, one of the biggest fears is like, I don't want to carry over what was given to me. Like, I want to break those things down, figure out how to get better, like what I need to work out, what I need to talk out, so that I'm not carrying those behaviors or styles. Because
Right.
I feel like when you're in an environment long enough, it's very easy to take on characteristics that you never really had, but you've been around it so much.
Right.
You know?
One of the things that I really appreciate about you is that you decide to break the generational curse of abuse and neglect, and you decide to be a positive person. You decide to be a light for other people, and that's one of the biggest decisions that we can make is to not do what's been done to you. If it was wrong, don't do that to yourself and do it to other people.
Yeah.
Make a decision to be the change that you want to see, and you've made that change. Desiree, to a young girl out there who might be in the 9th grade right now, and she might have some dysfunction going on at home, and she needs some encouragement, what would you say to her today?
I would definitely say be patient with yourself. What would I say? I would also say like it's okay not to be okay, because I felt like for me when I was like in the 9th grade, I was trying to like have it all together and try to be perfect and try to just pretend like everything was okay, and it wasn't. And I would say also that find someone that you can connect with so that you can share whatever it is you need to share to get the help that you need. And also like counseling is good as well, like to find someone you can really connect with, because the things, I don't know, for me, the things that I've been through, I find that I do need to talk about them to get them out, and just to kind of to like release what was given to me and just pick up healthier ways of doing things and thinking. So yeah.
Do you think that young girls receive enough empowerment these days?
Probably not. And I think there's a lot of empowerment out there. However, I'm not sure if there's empowerment around getting healthy and dealing with the trauma that you've been through. Because I feel like a lot of times it's praised like, yeah, go to college, build this business, but none of that matters if you are not healthy within. Like a few years ago, I was honored at the White House for like doing advocacy work, and everybody around me was so happy, like, wow, you did this, you did this. And for me, I was just so broken that I couldn't even experience the experience of being honored at the White House. So when people ask me like, wow, what was that experience like? I'm like, I have no idea, because I was not even there, mentally or emotionally. So it's like, if I would have done some of the work behind the trauma that I've experienced, I think I would have been able to be present and to enjoy it. Because I feel like when I was going through the trauma, the abuse that I was going through, the survival tool that I picked up was not being present. So when I was being abused, it was almost like I wasn't really there, because I had learned to kind of like zone out. And I feel like in certain ways, I've still carry that tool of zoning out, being there physically, but not mentally. So it's like when we don't deal with the trauma, then we will never be where we want to be.
Absolutely. The things you're saying, they're really resonating with me. And, when people say, Cedric, why are you so serious? This is why I'm so serious, because we are hurt. We have been hurt. We have been damaged. Our lives have been rattled and torn. And that is not okay. Desiree is sharing an American story with us today that can be shared and identified with by thousands of people across America, hundreds of thousands of people across America. They have been through abuse. Abuse is not just abuse. Abuse means somebody putting their hands on you inappropriately. It means somebody talking to you inappropriately. It means coming home and not eating properly day in and day out. And so when you become an adult, you just can't erase all that stuff that happened to you. But when you get out over and you overachieve and you, well, not overachieve, but when you overcome those things that you've been through, you become a shining light for others. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Desiree Moore today, and we're going to continue this conversation right after a brief message. Thank you. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley, and sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network. And we're back. Whew. Desiree, I got a little emotional there. I'm not gonna lie, I got emotional because when you say this is my reality, and just 2 years ago or recently when I was honored at the White House, I was still feeling the pain of my childhood. That just struck me right in the heart because I agree with you. I concur. And that's one of the reasons why I created this platform, so that we can get together and tell our stories and help to heal one another, and for our viewers to receive healing by watching these episodes. So I just want to thank you again. Now, what were you looking forward to when you got into high school? Were you trying to get a driver's license? Were you trying to go to prom? What was going on?
I wasn't trying to do any of those things. Honestly, I was still in survival mode. Like, I didn't really have dreams. I was just curious of like, how was I going to get out of this situation that I felt like I was stuck in?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you get any help by that time? Did anybody recognize that you were going through a heck of a time in life?
Kind of. Okay. So, I ended up disclosing to a teacher what I was going through in high school, and they asked me like, "Oh, what do you want me to do about this?" So when I heard them say that, I realized that they could not help me because they were asking me what they should do about it. So that was like one attempt at school. And then one day, I kind of got in trouble because my household, it was just like a really, really weird setup. Like there were some days that I wasn't like caged in the house. I don't want to make it sound like that, but there were days where sometimes the person that abused me would ask me to stay back from, like, don't go to school, or if your sisters and your adopted mother go out, which is my aunt, I want you to stay back. And I just decided I was in a space where I was like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm tired of that. Sorry, I don't know, I'm having trouble thinking, but
you started standing up for yourself. You're like, I'm not going to keep going through this.
Yeah, that was definitely that moment. But there was always like a retaliation. Like if I didn't do that, then my siblings would kind of get the whiff of it. Yeah. So I was kind of always like, oh, I'll just do whatever so my sister doesn't get in trouble. But this time I decided not to do that. And I didn't leave the house, but I hid the house. I hid in the house. So my uncle thought I went out instead of staying in. So then like when my sisters came back, like they started to get like yelled at, and I knew that it was all like because of the setup, and I decided not to stay home. So I don't know, I just prayed. I was in the closet, I was just praying and I was crying and I was like, God, like what should I do? And I really felt like I heard God say, you can either stay here or you can go to the unknown. And I was like, I'm going to take the unknown because I already know what this environment's like and I'm tired of it. So that very day, I packed up a few things in my backpack and I went to school like everything was okay. I didn't share anything with anyone. And a friend at the time, I ended up just writing her a letter about everything that was happening. I was in English class. She was sitting right behind me. I handed it to her. She read it and she said that she was going to deal with it. So she went to the guidance counselor and from there started like the whole foster care process.
Okay. How old were you when you went into foster care?
I was 17 and a half. So I kind of just hit the mark to be able to go into care.
Wow. I'm happy for your friend because I'm like ready to go back in time and bust you out of there. So for your friend came through for you.
She definitely did. And she knew what to do outside of the teacher. Like she didn't say like, what do you want me to do? She's like, I got you and I'm taking this. Like she just left. And the next thing I know, like the guidance counselor called me to the office and asked me if the letter was true. I said yes. And then that was the journey.
Do you still talk to that friend?
No, and I've been searching for her forever. She ended up going into the military and I kind of lost connection with her. And I think she also got married too, so that plays a factor in trying to find her. But I hope to find her someday to really be able to thank her.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope whether it be through social media or, some way, somehow you can get back in touch with her and just say how cool that was. And thank you, because without her taking that note to the guidance counselor, we wouldn't have gotten the treasure that you are today. So
thank you.
That was great. But now here you are at 17 going into a new beginning and you've got the pressure of growing up. Like you're 17, next thing you know, you're going to be an actual adult. And so that must have been yet another tough beginning for you.
It was. I was actually really excited about foster care. I was a little bit nervous because my parents always threatened me, like, oh, if you don't behave, we're going to send you to foster care. And I don't know, they made foster care sound so bad, which I'm sure there are some instances where foster care may not be great, depending on the parent you get. But I had a foster parent who was really she was great, for what I needed. She was great. She was calm. She was gentle. And it was just for me, like when I stepped in there, it was kind of like, this is my second chance and I'm going to make the best of it. It wasn't always easy because I also was going through the process of my aunt and uncle going to court, since it went through family court and stuff like that. And I had to kind of relive and share everything that was happening. And that was a hard process in itself. But I felt like once I got to foster care and I was out, my mind was just, this is something new.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was like a breath of fresh air for you.
It definitely was. And I felt like that was the time where, because I was still in high school, kind of, I was really behind in school. So I was really focused in school at that time. I was able to really focus for the first time, but I was also able to just be in a setting where I didn't have to worry about anything but school.
Right. Now,
everything was new.
Everything was new. That is powerful. Because of foster care, everything was new for you. And it sounds like everything was new and more positive.
Definitely.
For you. And so how did that affect your confidence?
It definitely boosted up a lot because I just felt, I just felt freedom. Like for the first time, I could kind of do whatever I wanted to do. And not so much in a wild way, but I can just be a normal 17-year-old, whatever that was. I was excited to kind of figure out what it was.
Right. I got adopted when I was 15. I was adopted at the age of 15, and I had a similar experience. because it was like a whole new reality. My confidence was boosted because it's like I got a second chance at life. And I just started having first after first after first after first after first. Can you relate to that?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Talk about some of your first. Let's go.
Um, Definitely having friends and being able to like stay after school. Actually going to prom, which was pretty exciting. Um, Hanging out with friends. Like I was not allowed to have friends. So when I found out in care, like I just had a curfew. I was kind of like, whoa, a curfew. I never had a curfew before. So
Yeah.
it was really, it was nice to be able to go out without having to be with like my uncle or aunt. So it was really nice.
Right. Wow. I'm so happy for you now because hey, you needed it. If anybody needed it, you needed it. And
Definitely.
thank God for people who come forward and open their life up to make
Definitely.
somebody else's life better. You know,
Definitely.
I also want you to encourage somebody out there who might be considering becoming a foster parent, but who hasn't actually made that decision yet. And they've got a wholesome heart, they've got good intentions, and they're not going to be judgmental. Can you coach them into becoming a foster parent for 15 seconds?
Definitely. I guess for me, what I would say is just walking into that foster home and feeling like I had a second chance, like you get to give that to someone else, because there is someone who's just waiting to be in your home and to be loved and to just feel safe. Like sometimes I think we take for granted that feeling of safety when we never had it before. So you could be that safe place and your home could be that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A quick game changer, an absolute game changer if somebody comes in and does that for you. So now you went to prom, you graduated high school,
Yes.
and what was next after that?
It was a little bit of college.
Okay.
And then I ended up being offered a full-time job, like an advocacy job. And I was kind of like, yeah, I'm going to go for it. Probably if I was to go back in time, I would have stayed in school so that I could finish because now I'm trying to do that now.
Okay.
But I felt like it was a good decision because I got connected with so many great people that wanted to make change in foster care. And it really just inspired me because I grew up in an environment where I thought I was the only person going through what I was going through. And then I was in a room filled with advocates and activists who were sharing the same stories and had the same passion. So I probably wouldn't go back and change it because that really inspired me to share my story and to speak up. And that whole sentence of like what happens in the house stays in the house is not okay. So it was a great moment.
What was your greatest success with this agency?
Um, the greatest, say that again.
Success.
I think it was just finding my voice and helping others find their voice.
Wow. So what was it like when you attended your first conference as an advocate? How
Oh
did
my gosh. I mean, well, traveling was like, wow, I never did this before. So it was really exciting. But I don't know. It's just like when you're in a room filled with people that understand you and can relate to you, I don't think there's a greater feeling than that. So I think that was probably the greatest, like being able to speak and connect with people.
wow. And I remember you saying earlier that you like to write. So what did writing look like as you had this transformation going on in your life? Were you still writing?
Yes, I was. Yeah, it was just writing the experiences, like traveling, meeting my foster siblings, like us becoming a family. It's just so many different. It was a lot different than what I was writing when I was kind of like stuck in the house going through all of those different things.
Right. Would you say that writing was something that essentially helped you get through all of your experiences?
Oh, definitely. I don't know if I could have did it without writing because I felt like for a really long time I couldn't share things with people. So I would just write them. I mean, even now I write more than I speak to people. So I'm trying to learn to change that because now I don't need to do that as much. So yeah, it was very helpful.
So you find writing to be a very powerful tool.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
definitely.
And I think in pre-production you mentioned that you were doing a blog too.
Yes. I have a blog called God's Little Treasures at WordPress where I write about faith, foster care, and overcoming childhood trauma. So the
Is that
things
like
that,
is that like a philosophy?
um, no, it just ended up being like I love talking about faith. I love talking about foster care, and I feel like childhood trauma is not talked about enough. Or people think we should stop talking about it when we become adults, but I feel like when we don't deal with trauma, we are literally grown-ups carrying all of our trauma from childhood. So
Mhm. What do you think that we can do to keep foster care and child welfare at the front of people's agenda? Like, I understand that in today's environment, we have the pandemic, we have different social causes happening right now. And one thing that I don't want to see, I never want to see child welfare and child safety lose visibility amongst everything. Do you agree with that?
oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's far too many people who are experiencing, an abusive life right now, and I mean, they need us to continue to raise awareness, and that's why I see someone like you who became an advocate. I see you as so important,
Thank you.
such a pivotal person in the community, and I think what you're doing is great. So, what is a blog for people out there who don't know?
It's just a place where you can write articles and share it with others.
Okay, and does that come along with pictures too?
Yes, it does, because I love photography. So all of the photos there are photos that I've taken just along the journey.
When did you get into photography?
I got into photography probably around 2012.
Okay,
Um, I was just really depressed and I needed a hobby, and I started taking pictures and realized that I was pretty good at it and I loved it, and then it just became a thing.
right. So where'd you get your first camera from?
Actually, someone just blessed me with it. They were like, I really love your photos. I think you're great. Here's all the material, like, here's all the equipment you need. So
Mhm.
I'm really blessed in that area.
Did you ever think about just traveling, taking pictures, writing, stuff
Oh
like
my
that?
God, that would be a dream come true.
Yeah, I mean, I could see you doing it. People like Anthony Bourdain. Unfortunately, he passed away recently. Um, Andrew Zimmern. I love people, and there's a new show out called Somebody Feed Phil. I love shows where people go to different places around the world and they talk, explore culture, and take pictures. And I can totally see you being one of those personalities.
Oh my God, I would love to do that because I love hearing people's stories. So
Right.
that'd be like a really cool way to capture
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. And then photography is a big, big world unto itself.
It is.
Um, do you do like photo shoots now, or are you making that into a business?
I am making it into a business. I do portraits. And something fun I do is for every shoot that I do, I give back to a family in foster care. Either they adopted or just a young person in care that wants like headshots or prom or whatever. So that's always complimentary for like the foster care community. So
Incredible. Now, if somebody wants to book you for a photo shoot to take photos of their family or their graduating senior or anything like that, how could they get in touch with you?
they can reach out to me from my blog, and I will
Okay.
work with them.
Okay. Yeah. All along you had talents. You were a photographer. You were an advocate. You were a personality. And the good thing about it is you're tapping into it and you're providing it now to the community. So I'm really excited about the future for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's next?
Um, my goal is to write a devotional for kids in foster care. So right now I'm just focusing on writing.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Another thing I thought about as you were speaking was that spirituality played a big role for you in like keeping you grounded and helping you to overcome, the things that you went through. And even on a good day, you might still say something positive out into the universe. Where did you pick up spirituality from?
I definitely picked it up from my uncle and aunt, but I feel like I didn't really learn. I didn't learn about it more until I started to want to know more about God for myself. Because I feel like sometimes people change our perspectives because of their relationship. But for me, I just started reading the Bible, and I connected that way.
Mm-hmm. Would you recommend spirituality as a way for young people to mature spiritually?
Oh, definitely.
Wow. And so what are some of the things that you do that help you to kind of grow? So like whether you read the book of Psalms, you read the book of Proverbs, do you do a Bible study? How can people out there who want to grow spiritually, how can they take some notes from what you do?
I think for me, the biggest thing was like reading the Bible for myself because I feel like a lot of times we are there's just so many other opinions of what personal opinions versus like what's in the Bible. So just getting to know like God for yourself. And I was able to connect with a community group where we do Bible study together, we pray together. So just building that community and just having a personal prayer life. You know, it doesn't have to be fancy. It's just like, God, I'm not good today. Please help me. Like just simple stuff, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You know, prayer is a very powerful thing. Do you pray often?
I do. I definitely do.
Okay. So when we have a family dinner and invite you over and we say, all right, Desiree, pray us out, you be good for that?
Yes, I will.
Hey, Desiree, I have three questions for you that we ask everybody. And, you know, I think that you've been a brilliant guest today. Some young lady out there has been listening, and she's going to reconsider the fact that she could potentially be a speaker, she could be a storyteller, she could be a writer, she could be a photographer. She does not have to continue in a reality that's hurting her. And you've represented all those things today. And I think that that's powerful. My first question is, what is survival to you?
Survival to me is just doing what's necessary to make it through.
Wow. Okay. And so a young lady or a young man out there who's doing his best to survive, what is one thing that they could do tomorrow that they didn't do yesterday?
Um, I don't know. For me, I never recommend survival mode. So the quicker you can get out of it because it's not good. You
Yeah.
want to be able to just live,
Yep.
you know? So
Yep.
no, it's temporary, I guess I would say.
All right. Great. Survival is a phase of life that we have to get out of in order to experience greater things. What is success to you?
What is success? Success is achieving and emotionally being able to celebrate it.
Wow, let's unpack that. Being able to celebrate emotionally.
Yes, because in reality, most of us, we achieve things, but because we have not dealt with trauma, we don't really enjoy it. Like, there's so many things I've done, and people are like, wow. And I'm just like, no, that's not good enough or not yet. And that's really more of the trauma not dealt with to be able
Wow.
to celebrate.
I mean, I think that's absolutely huge. You know, how many people out there are achieving things, but they're not really there in the moment feeling that achievement?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on what it takes to really get through to people? How do we really get through to people?
What do you mean?
Like if you're achieving something that should make you happy, but you're not happy because on the inside, you know, there's something that's not been dealt with. How do we get through to people and help them to become more in the moment?
By asking yourself questions like, why am I not happy in this moment? Why is everyone else around me celebrating and I don't feel like it's something worth celebrating? So maybe being more self-aware and just doing your best to be present. Like a lot of times sometimes like I'll just rub my hand just to remind myself, like, hey, I'm here. I don't need to be anywhere else. Like just reminding myself to be in this moment.
Absolutely. You definitely deserve it. You know, you deserve to have good times. You deserve to have all of the fruits of hard work, because you're definitely a hard worker. And we also want to encourage other people out there, hey, get in tune with the moment. As far as we know, we live one time. Listen, the early years of your life might have been tough. You have to get to a point where you begin to enjoy life. Spirituality is a part of that. Connecting with other people is a part of that. And asking yourself, why? Why am I here? And what is my why? Is an important conversation to have with yourself. I was talking to a gentleman one day, and I think I was explaining like a simple problem to him. And he was like, why? And then I told him why it was a problem. And then he said, why? And then I told him why I said what I said. And then he said, why? This man asked me why 5 times. After asking me why 5 times, my response was so simple and so basic and so understandable. Listen, the power of why is very, very important. Next time you get a chance, ask yourself why and answer that 5 times. And when you get to the basic, trust me, you'll be able to move at least an inch forward. All right, last question. What is greatness to you?
Greatness? Greatness. I don't know.
Yep, that's a good
That's a tough
answer.
one. I guess I have to figure out.
Sure. So in my different type of world, I believe that once we overcome the adversities that we go through when we're young, and we experience the success of young adulthood because we're connecting with people, we're dealing with our trauma. After that is greatness. So yeah, so once you've succeeded, like you've gotten out of the mentality of the younger self, then now you're into greatness. You're stepping into greatness right here at this very moment, Desiree. And
thank you for teaching that.
You just inspired all of our listeners on Roku, all of our watchers on Android TV, Apple TV, Facebook, and YouTube. You did that. I want to let you know, I respect your work. I appreciate your work. I want to give you a crown while you're still living. I want to let you know that I commend you today. I appreciate you. Our viewers appreciate you. And that you, Desiree, is America's next motivator.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on this platform. I think it's amazing, the sharing of stories and everything that you're doing.
Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by, Desiree. I'll talk to you soon, all right?
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for stopping by today. Feel free to share this episode with a young lady out there, with a young woman out there, with a young man out there who needs his or her world to be opened up. Every time we do an episode of America's Next Motivator, there's something here for you. You just need to stop by and pick it up.